You better buckle up because we are likely in for one of the craziest periods of time, not just for precious metals prices, but I have a feeling that definitely will be the case in the coming, guys, we're talking about the coming 4 days. By Thursday of next week, we'll have a better idea about what's going on politically in this country, this massive election, and we will have heard from the Federal Reserve. Now, let's talk about the examples about what we can expect just in these coming 4 days out of the Fed, out of the election, and more importantly, most importantly, what we want to talk about, what's going to happen to the silver and gold price, because it has the makings to be severe. We have a severe storm alert on the horizon, and it just sunk in to me. It's the next 4 days when all of this will be unfolding. So let's talk about the election first. Nobody knows, obviously, how the election will go. And on top of that, don't trust anybody when they act like they can tell you for sure. They know that, oh, if Trump wins, gold and silver will go down. If this happens, this will happen. Let's talk about the three likely scenarios that could unfold politically in the coming days and what I think and what I'm hearing will happen to the gold and silver price. But remember, this is just my opinion. Don't make any financial decisions based on anything I'm saying. But my gut is usually right, and I'll share with you my gut feel about where I think silver will be Friday, Saturday of next week, a little bit later in this video. But everybody's saying if Trump wins, gold and silver will go down. He has kind of positioned himself as the crypto president. Okay, that's not necessarily absolutely bad for gold and silver, but, and there's a big but, and I know we like big buts. We do not lie. Listen, the big but that we need to consider is that we've got J.D. Vance and other Republicans talking about Ron Paul, going back to the Ron Paul way of looking at things. We know that President Trump is very fond of Judy Shelton. Do you know who Judy Shelton is? He tried to get her on the Fed. She's like a gold standard. She's with us. She's a precious metals lover. So not necessarily if Trump is elected and there's no contest, no contestation, no whatever that word is, where the Democrats, try to stop the result. That doesn't necessarily mean that the price of gold and silver have to go down. That's the general consensus. The general consensus, I want you to think about this, is often wrong. We could have, right, strong silver and gold prices immediately after a Trump election. Now, what if Kamala wins the election? Everybody says gold and silver will take off. Now, it's ironic because it's my general observation. I know you, basement dweller, that most people in the silver and gold arena that are stackers, right, that love their metals, let me ask you a question. Who are you voting for? Okay. I have a strong feeling that most stackers are supporting the more conservative candidate. I'll leave it at that. However, it's somewhat paradoxical and ironic that most people are also saying that if Kamala wins the election, that the price of gold and silver will skyrocket. The thought behind that is that the spending will continue. There's no regard for that elephant in the room. Remember back when I'm in the basement, I have an elephant hanging from the ceiling next to an American flag. There's an elephant in the room. So not necessarily if she gets elected will gold and they don't have to skyrocket, but that's what most people are saying. I can kind of see that happening. I don't necessarily buy this line of argument that if Trump gets elected, that's bad for gold and silver. We'll see how it all plays out. Now, the third option is if there's a big fight subsequent to the election, right? They can't decide. It's contested, and it goes into a big legal battle, and there's potential for social turmoil in the United States. Under that scenario, I see gold and silver doing very, very well, very well. Okay. We don't want to see that happen because we don't want to see social unrest or anything. And is it just me or is it weird? I had this conversation with my friend Slick Willie. He's been on the channel. It's been a couple of years. He's a CPA, a well-known author, a multi-millionaire. The guy made all of his money on his own. He's very, very smart. And we were talking earlier today. I'm out of town here, so I was looking at an ocean when I was talking to him. But have you noticed? It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of signs. I just drove. I saw as many "We Buy Gold" signs as I did political signs. That he said, and he said, yeah, it's like there's a lot of anger simmering under the surface. We're not looking for anything bad to happen, but, okay, let's just recap here, right? If we get a Trump victory, it seems like it's 50-50 what's immediately going to happen, but there's a big kicker, so stay with me here to the gold and silver price. If Kamala wins, probably we could see the price of gold and silver shoot up immediately. If it's contested, I feel like that's going to be support land for silver and gold. We'll see how it all plays out. But the big kicker is, guys, no matter who gets in, it doesn't matter. Okay? From a gold and silver perspective, it doesn't matter because we still have this massive issue in this country, this debt level that just does not work. I'm sorry. It doesn't work. Mathematics shows no forgiveness on the altar of truth. Okay? God made it so that 2 plus 2 always equals 4. 5,000, 10,000, 10 million years ago, 10 million years from now, 2 plus 2 will, math, you can't mess with mathematics, and the mathematics of the United States fiscal situation is horrific right now, right? The national debt. Don't worry, we'll go take a look at that debt clock in a little bit. So what matters, right? And the reason why that matters is because no matter who gets elected, okay? And look, I have my own personal feelings. This is not a political show. Many of you can probably guess which way I lean, but nonetheless, guys, at the end of the day, as a silver and gold investor, right? It's not going to matter. What matters is the fact that you can't just print. There's only one way, right? There's only one way out of the situation that the United States is in right now. The United States will never be able to pay back all that debt, period. And in particular, we're digging the hole deeper and deeper right now as we're speaking. We probably added, I don't know, $15 million in debt. Who knows? There's only one way. It's called default. Right? And they can default 2 ways, right? And this is important to remember. And either way, I want you to think about this. Either way they default will be good for gold and silver. You can default by just defaulting, saying, you know what? I ain't going to pay it. That's like you, right? Borrowing $100,000 from me. Good luck with that. But nonetheless, and then 5 years later, you say, you know what, Ron? Sorry, I'm not going to pay it. That's one way that the government can default on the debt. The other way, which is what they will do, it's what countries have always done. It's what the United States is already doing right now, is they will just print more and more and more and more money. Have you ever heard of Zimbabwe? Have you ever heard of Venezuela? Okay, those are just 2 examples of hundreds and hundreds, right? Those are recent examples. Go look at the price of silver in Venezuela over the last 10 years. You can't even think that your computer will blow up. Warning, no, wait, don't do it. Don't pull up on your computer a chart of silver in Venezuela. Your computer will start smoking and break because the chart just goes, it's unbelievable. Look at Zimbabwe. That's what they'll do. They'll print money. That's all they can do. That's it, right? And we are at a critical point, right? We are at the point of no return, but at the point where it starts to grow and grow and grow exponentially. And everybody says this is, and I'm going to talk about this again tomorrow as well. But the reason why it doesn't seem possible to you or me or my dad, who's sitting out there, he's 84 years old. Because it's never happened to us in our lifetimes. Talk to somebody from Venezuela. I do. I have 3 good friends. Mama, I've shown you pictures of her. She's like 74. She moved here like 8 years ago, or not 8 years ago, 2 years ago, 3, I don't know, Really, I know it's been somewhere between 2 and 4 years. Anyway, they'll tell you it's real. Currency collapse does occur, right? I don't want it to happen. You don't want it to happen, but that is really the only way out. And that's because of out of control government spending. So be prepared, guys. This is the biggest week that we're probably ever going to go through together since we've started this channel. Since if you're a silver and gold investor, I think the next 4 days are massive. Where are we going to be? My gut, I'll tell you my gut. Okay. My gut, and this is based on technical analysis, fundamental analysis, common sense, right? There's 3 types of analysis. Technical analysis. We're going to look at a chart next, right? Of the Dow to gold ratio. That's when you look at a chart, that's technical analysis. Welcome to Ron's basement. We're as smart as anybody else. We can look at charts. That's, nothing like, science fiction or anything like that about charts. There's fundamental analysis, right? Like the silver deficit and all these fundamental things going on with silver in particular. For gold, it might be, the central banks are buying gold. That's fundamental. So you got technical, fundamental, but you know what we do, basement dwellers? We throw in a third component. That's common sense, right? And I kind of give them all equal weighting. And when I do that with silver, and I think about what we're facing here, all of us together, you and me, baby, we're in this for the next 4 days. I got big investments in precious metal mining stocks. I might be more severely depressed by Friday or Thursday, okay? We're going to be in for some big, wild moves, wild and woolly. And don't get too excited, right, by what happens immediately. I can tell you that. That's a little secret. Don't get too depressed. Don't get too excited. If silver Tuesday night and gold are up, whatever, I know it'll be exciting if that happens, okay? But a lot of times, especially after these big events, you get wild moves one way and then wild moves the back way. I remember 8 years ago, I was actually at the same place I'm at right now, when Trump got elected that night, and I think gold was up like $100, and it was like a shock, like, oh my God, Trump got elected. And then by like the next day, gold was, I don't remember silver, but I know gold was like down the next day, if I remember that correctly, and down shortly thereafter. So we're going to have to take some deep breaths, remember the long-term reasons why we hold the metals. I do believe that by Friday, we could have silver. It just sounds crazy. I completely understand. Right? The number that popped into my head was $38 per ounce. If I'm right, you can call me whatever you want, a silver pumper, whatever. Because if we're right, and by Friday, we'll have a better idea of what's going on. And if we have $38 silver by Friday, I think we'll be in real good shape. Even if we have $34, $34.50, we're in good shape to make that run for $44 silver. By the end of the year, it's going to be a fun run, and we're going to do it together. What about the biggest chart of your entire career? The biggest chart, the most important thing that you need to look at. Sorry, Susie's looking at me through the window over here. Let's go look at that right now. Hold on here. Let's go take a look, because this is a chart that will make every silver and gold investor very, very happy. We're going to go there, but let's go check first. Are the markets open yet? Almost. Guys, we're going to get an update on the silver and gold price here shortly. Yeah, we're still at 32.51 in silver, and gold 27.40. Let's check and make sure these aren't live yet. We're in a different time zone, so I'm a little off. But I want to say thank you to channel sponsor Pembex. Guys, look, if you want to make it easy and you want to get like the best prices, right, the best service, the best selection, and work with a company that you really can trust, if you want to talk to a human, you can call Monday through Friday, talk to Mike, talk to Brian, the guys that own this company. Pembex is the best, okay? I can say that. I can look you in the eye and tell you I believe that 150%. I'm a customer. I was a customer before they sponsored Ron's Basement, okay? All I would ask is, please, if you're going to buy bullion online, give them a shot, right? Just check them out. check them out. And, you can take my word for it, right, about them being a company you can trust. You obviously can do your own due diligence, read what other people have said about the company. But I'll tell you, just my truth is that it's a great company, a company you can trust, and a company that by sponsoring Ron's Basement makes our little get-togethers here good. So look what Chris says. Christopher, did you really say this, Christopher Aaron? The single most important chart in all of finance, the Dow to gold ratio. I'm going to explain to you why this is very, very, very optimistic and bullish for anyone who's invested in silver and gold. And I got a feeling that might be you, Buttercup. Okay. All right. This ratio has been consolidating for 44 years. Isn't that interesting? We've got this ratio consolidating. Let me come back, make sure I got you on. I didn't have you on the right screen. I apologize. Let's go back. Welcome to the basement. All right, now we are. Okay, hold on. Let me look at you again one more time. Guys, here we are. Okay, hopefully we're still live. Hunting blind, afternoon. Okay, all right, sorry about that. Thank you, Annie Oakley, for being here and moderating. Also, thank you to Jake from Jake's Custom Parts, Big Tim the Silver Shar. Guys, this consolidation in the Dow to gold ratio, I want you to remember this number, 44 years. Now, the biggest, most epic chart pattern in the history of the universe for anything in the civilized world in all history is on the silver, right? In the silver price, the 44-year cup and handle. Do you think that's a coincidence? Right? We're not going to get into the silver cup and handle. We've looked at it many times. It's the most powerful chart pattern. It's 44 years. People are like, it's the most textbook, whatever. 44 years, silver, bullish pattern. Now, let's go back here, and I'm going to bring you with me this time. I apologize. This is Christopher Aaron. There he is. Nice looking young man. He says the single most important chart in all of finance, the Dow to gold ratio. Why is this the most important chart of your career? The most important chart to you as a silver and gold investor. I'm going to show you why. Okay, this ratio is consolidating for 44 years. I was 10 years old when that started. We all saw that one coming, didn't we, guys? Which way will it break in 2025? And it's going to break. This will determine the fate of most investors' careers. This will determine the fate of your career as a silver and gold investor because it will break. This, guys, see that? That wedge? Well, that's called a wedge pattern, or some people call it a triangle, whatever you want to call it. But I want you to think about this. And this chart represents how many ounces of gold it would take to buy 1 unit of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So just for example, right now the Dow is at 42,000. So it takes, I don't know, what would that be? 16 or so, okay, ounces of gold to get $42,000 that you would then use to buy 1 unit of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. As you can see, it has been super low. In 1980, I think it got down to 1-to-1 at one point. Just for example, okay, if it were to get to 1-to-1, again, and some people speculate, predict that could happen. If the Dow to gold ratio was 1-to-1 right now, right, with the Dow at 42,000, that would mean the gold price would be $42,000 per ounce. Even if the Dow dropped in half to 21,000 and gold went up to 21,000, that would also give us a Dow to gold ratio of 1-to-1. But as you look at this, right, so this goes down. The lower that number goes, that means the more valuable gold is, the higher the gold price, okay? This is a ratio, again, not an index, a ratio, which compares two things to each other. As you can see, this triangle, that is forming, this will break one way or the other. To the upside would be down for the gold value relative to the Dow. To the downside would be positive. But I want you to think about something. When you look at these highs, I don't know, where did that get? Way up there. Wow. Probably back in, this was right around the year 2000. When it got way up there, that was peak unicorn fart dust, peak fantasy land. That was peak dollar value in the world. That was when the United States had more power, more influence than any other time in history. That was 30 years after President Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. And we were living in the financial fantasy world, financial fantasy island, you could almost say. And guys, that's not coming back. Okay. We know what the trend now is, which is definitely away from the US dollar. We got the BRICS countries de-dollarizing. The BRICS do not trust the United States. That's a fact. Right? That's a fact. Jim Rogers, I was listening to him earlier today, right? Legendary. What is the legendary? He said, they don't trust. They know that the United States can never pay the debt back, right? That's the reason why they don't trust us. You know, we aren't living in the financial we blew our reputation. Think about it. I don't like it. You didn't do it. I didn't do it, right? But our elected officials did it. They blew our reputation. You know, it's just that's the way things are. Okay. Let's have a little talk about stagflation. Let's have a big talk about stagflation. Guys, it is the 1970s were the holy grail for stagflation. The 1970s were the holy grail for the silver price and the gold price. This is the biggest news story, really, right, that nobody's talking about. We talk about the election coming up. Yes, that's big. We talk about the Fed meeting next Thursday. Yeah, that's big. That's all happening in the next 4 days for those of you who are just joining. Right now, what's going to really drive, and I mean provide us with rocket fuel type returns in the metals prices, is going to be stagflation. And we've got big evidence that it's real and it's happening right now. Okay. Right now. Okay. Let's talk about the stag in stagflation. What did we hear last week? A horrible jobs report that traditionally would have made silver and gold rocket. That didn't happen. And what did they blame? Did you? We know that the numbers they report are wrong to begin with. Okay. They're fantasy numbers. However, you know what they blamed? Now they blamed it on the hurricane, right? And what else was it? Strikes. There's strikes going on in hurricanes. Well, you know what? The hurricane was horrible. But stuff happens across this country all the time. Strikes happen. The reason why the jobs were down is because the economy is bottoming. That's the stag. That's part of the stag and stagflation. Something else that went under the radar on Friday came out, and that was the ISM numbers. Let me read this to you. ISM manufacturing PMI, the Purchase Managers Index, was worse than expected, dropping from 47.2 all the way down to 46.5 in October. That is the lowest since June of 2023, which seems recent until you realize that was like 15 months ago. So we had a very low PMI. That's stag. When the jobs start to go away, when the jobs picture erodes, we created the best they could do is try to convince you and me that they actually created 12,000 jobs. Are you kidding me? Look, let me back up. Let's explain this. Why is this such a big deal? Because the stagnant economy, right, with inflation, puts the Fed into a box. All they can do is try to react, right? But it turns into a massive, massive spiral of money printing, okay? Because as the economy slows down, 12,000 jobs, ISM numbers on the toilet, that means the Fed's got to cut rates. We're going to hear on Thursday what's going on there. When the Fed cuts rates, that makes inflation go up, okay? That makes inflation skyrocket, and inflation will rule the day for silver and gold in the coming years. The days of high inflation being bad for the silver and gold price, that little dark period we had, 2 or 3 years back, those are gone. And what do we know about inflation? Let's touch on that, because right now what we heard regarding inflation is this: the Fed's preferred measure of underlying inflation posted its biggest monthly gain since April. But the key to remember there is that the inflation number was still almost 3% year over year. They haven't fixed inflation. I went to the grocery store again today. I told you yesterday I went to Publix. Today I had to go to Walmart grocery store for the big purchase, right? Everything, even over last year, is at least 20% higher. Where are they saying 3%? Oh, that's right. The Fed's preferred measure of inflation doesn't really take food into account, right? Do I have that right? If I'm wrong, put it in the comments. But it's hard for me to read all the comments. You guys are I didn't even tell you that yet. Let me back up. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of the basement. Thanks for being a basement dweller. Thanks for giving us your time. You're smart, right? You're important. You matter. Leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps. And super chat, super thanks. All those super things are super appreciated. But guys, inflation is not gone away. They didn't defeat inflation. No. Yeah. No, they didn't defeat inflation. Are they trying to kid us? And now they're cutting rates. And why are they cutting rates? Think about it. Eisenhower. They're cutting rates because the economy stinks, right? They're closing Wendy's restaurants, 140 of them, TGI Fridays, Walgreens. I don't know if there's going to be any Walgreens left soon, right? Everything's shutting down. I got a cousin that works in the commercial lighting, deals with a lot of big contractors, architects. He's like, it's slow. It's real slow. Okay. Things are slowing down in the economy right now. So the Fed's got to cut rates, right? That's what they're doing. They're cutting rates. Why would the Fed cut rates? Think about it. And that's going to drive inflation. And that when that silver and gold are going to be the massive beneficiaries of that when the sheeple wake up, right? That wasn't a good one. Hold on. Right? There's sheeple everywhere. I'll tell you where there wasn't a sheeple. I'll tell you a quick story. I'm at Walmart you ever have this happen? I'm like, all I had to do, I'm going to make some baked potatoes. Okay. And I couldn't decide, should I buy potatoes individually or should I buy a big bag or should I buy yellow potatoes, whatever, do you ever get in that situation? And I was just in that mood and I was like, I can't figure this out, and anyway, but then the produce people were there and they're talking and I'm like, I'm going to ask this guy, should I buy these ones that are more green or whatever? Anyway, he's talking about having a YouTube channel and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of paying attention. Was not in a real good mood to begin with. And I told him, I said, hey, I have a YouTube channel. And I talked to this guy. This is not the point, for like 15 minutes. Super nice guy. Got his card over there. And then he asked about my channel, right? And I said, silver or gold. He's like, I just got into silver. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, I started to learn about silver and about investing in silver and saving in silver. And I'm like, well, buddy, you know what? Welcome. You're no longer a sheeple. You're in the right place. And then I wound up buying a bag of potatoes, which I got to go make here in a second when I'm done. Nonetheless. All right. So that's what's going to happen. It's a stagflation. Guys, that is the biggest. If you own silver, if you own gold, listen to me. If you own precious metal mining stocks, stagflation is your friend. It was the most epic period of time. Silver went from $1.50 to $50 per ounce. We are in stagflation right now. You aren't going to hear it on CNN. CNN is the children's news network. You're going to hear about God knows what. You've seen it, right? We're in it right now. It could provide epic. I'm not saying silver is going to go up from $1, same rate from $1.50 to $50, even if silver goes up a third of what it did in the 1970s, and you own silver, you're going to be happy, scrappy hero pup. You're going to be so happy that you protected yourself with silver and gold. So the stagflation is real. The inflation, they can't deal with it. Let me give you a little secret. Let's go look at something here. Hold on. I want to show you. I'm going to tell you why the Fed lowered rates. Here's the real reason why the Federal Reserve lowered interest rates. It's up here in the upper left corner of the U.S. debt clock. It's, oh, hey, whoa. If we hang on here for a little bit longer, guys, we're going to watch the odometer roll over to $36 trillion. Maybe tomorrow on the live stream. I don't know. Let's see. 5. It's going to happen soon. But they can't afford to pay the interest. Okay, you've got 36 trillion in debt and you've got 983 billion in interest expense. If the rates go much higher, right, which the market is demanding, that's where it gets super interesting, right? The government can't function without just printing money. So think about this. When the Fed comes out and says, oh, we're lowering interest rates, and well, they give all these BS. No, the real reason behind it was, right, the debt's out of control. They can't afford it. They can't afford to pay it. Okay. It's not a workable situation. Oh, but then think it's absolutely insane, though, then to think about this. So this is what the world is saying back to the United States and the Fed. Hold on here. Let's go over here. Let's say thank you, channel sponsor, First Mining Gold. Guys, they're a Canadian gold development company, 2 multi-million-ounce projects in Canada. Here's their website, Springpole and Duparquet. You can learn more about them right here at firstmininggold.com. Thank you, First Mining Gold. But what were we going to go look at? Darn it, I was on such a roll. Why did I forget that? I'm forgetting. You ever have that happen to you as you get to be 54? Oh, I know. Yeah, this is crazy. It's so crazy. My brain is going haywire. This is what's crazy. The Fed lowered interest rates. Oh, really? Okay, that's great, Fed. Then why did this happen? Why did this happen? Hold on here. Let's go look at the 10-year bond yield. Are the silver and gold markets open? I think they are. We'll go back and look at that 1 second. Here's the 10-year bond yield. This is what the world is saying to the United States. They're saying, we don't want your debt. And it's totally manifested right here in this chart, okay? 10-year bond yield, and we will look at 3 months. Okay, remember, this is right around when they cut interest rates, when the Fed said, we're going to lower interest rates. And what has happened since then, right? The rate went from what, 3.5? Yeah, 3.56 to 4.36. I mean, that's like 3/4 of a point up. That's the market, okay? And you hear that, and that's becoming even more critical that we need to remember this. Right, the Fed can set their whatever they call it rate where they think it should be, blah blah blah. But the market, the Treasury bond, the Treasury bill market, is big. It's real big because of that number we just looked at, which showed the amount of debt that the country has. And when people don't want to buy the debt, the Chinese aren't buying the debt, the Indians aren't buying the debt, the Japanese aren't buying the debt. They got to buy their own debt because they're worse off than we are. The Saudi Arabians, remember when Joe Biden went to Saudi Arabia and they were like, yeah, good to see you, buddy. Welcome. Hope you enjoy your stay. Here, go out back. Anyway, they aren't buying. Nobody wants to buy the debt because they can work a calculator and they can look at that debt number and know that it's out of control. You know what? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I know I'm getting yelled at right now. I apologize. I owe you a big apology, guys. Let's go out and do one of the most critical things we do lately during a live stream. And let's go look and make sure. Oh, sure enough, the dollar to silver ratio now at $960 per ounce. We always try to find a different way to describe this. What this is shows us is the amount of money that is flying out of the Federal Reserve every year, okay, relative to how many ounces of silver are coming out of the ground every year. So via the M2 money supply, right now, our government is creating 960 paper unicorn fart dust fiat dollars for each 1 ounce of silver that is being created. I'm not saying that that means the silver price should be $960. No, but that is a very, very concrete, useful example for us to look at that shows just how crazy things are. We'll go out. Let's look at yesterday. We were at 958. That's already a crazy high number, and it absolutely continues to go up. Now, you know, if you're at the country club later and that guy, I know you go to the club on Sundays, and that guy that you like talking to comes up and starts talking to you, here's a good tip for you. Start talking to him about the dollar to silver ratio. You can pull it up on your phone on the U.S. debt clock, and he'll skedaddle. He'll scram. Before you know it, scram. All right, we got to scram, right? Remember that? A lot of people remember that one. Okay. So yeah, they never defeated inflation. We went to the debt clock. Oh, this is interesting. Why is $32 silver? Is the silver market open? Hold on. Let's go out and check here, guys. Let's go check on that silver market. I don't know if it opened yet. Are we down bad? What's going on? Nope, it doesn't look like it changed. So we'll keep an eye on that. But $32, what was that price? Hold on. $32.50, right? That's where we are on silver. It's okay. It's good. $32.50 silver, $32 silver, 31. All right. I'm becoming a little flexible. Is okay. And I'm going to tell you why. Dave Erfley in his weekly letter, I grabbed one paragraph that I think really sums things up. He says, silver. This is a recap of what happened last week. And Dave Erfley writes the Junior Miner Junkie. It's a newsletter. He's well respected, very high quality guy. I only bring you the best. And this is what he said. Silver tested 12-year resistance at $35 2 weeks ago. Remember that when silver was at $35? And is up over 40% this year, with the next resistance level being at $38. $38 Friday. That's what I'm saying, not Dave. The recent shakeout of short and medium-term bullish positions in the $32 to $35 range could pave the way for long-term buyers to step in decisively. What he's saying there that is so critical, and this is somewhat true for gold as well right now, is this move down. Oh boy, we've been destroyed. Silver, no. Number one, we're up 40% for the year. That's not the point. The important point, the critical nugget that he just delivered to us, is this fact that this move from $35 to $32 in silver shook out all the weak hands, got rid of all the people that aren't long-term holders. If we can hold here at $32, even over the next few days, and then we'll have all this big election stuff, we could be then have more people like you and me, long-term buyers, step up to the plate, and that could set the stage for this rally. Let's see what he says. Wow. Oh my gosh. Are you ready? You're going to like Dave Erfley better than you like me, if you don't already. This shift may set the stage for silver. Hold on. Don't put your drinks down, because this is going to be crazy. Here, let's all have a quick drink. This shift, meaning getting rid of the weak hands and the new strong hand investors coming in, may set the stage for silver to target a new all-time high, potentially surpassing $50 per ounce level by Q1 of 2025. Woof. Okay, let's hear what he had to say about gold. He said, quote, with investment demand picking up, the recent central bank slack. Central banks have kind of scaled back their buying of gold, but gold still has room to move higher as institutional investors are only just beginning to re-enter the gold-backed ETF market. Buying and bullion-backed ETFs flipped to gains in Q3 after prolonged outflows. We talked about this. You knew this weeks ago, right? And I learned it originally from, was it Philip Stribel from Blue Line Futures? After the Fed cuts rates, right, about a month later is when you will start to see traditionally big inflows into the gold and silver backed ETFs. And that's exactly what is happening. And the Western investors aren't there. They haven't shown up for the party yet. Not at all. Okay. Just starting. I told you I was driving through rural Tennessee a few days ago, and out of nowhere, I see a big yellow banner on the side of a shack that says, "We buy gold." I mean, I'm thinking, what's this guy doing in there? Excuse me. The Western investors aren't even at the party yet. Okay. The time to even think about converting some of your precious metals is not here yet. Right now, it's the scaredy cats, right? I got to get out of silver. I can't take it anymore. And I understand, I'm not putting anybody down, right? Silver's a widow maker. Silver can be a very challenging, right? It has wild volatility. It can be emotionally challenging for people, and they just want to get out. They're getting out now, right? The long-term holders are coming in. The Chinese know. I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, so I can't give it all away. They know. The Chinese and the Indians know what's going on, the game that has been being played, okay? It's a new time, a new era. It's going to be super interesting. Hey, all 600 of you, thank you for joining me out of the blue. It's a big deal. We are in for a wild 4 days. Buckle up, Buttercup. I'm Buttercup. You can be Buttercup if you like. Buckle up, basement dwellers. It is going to be wild. Hey, I want to also quickly, before we sign off, say thank you to Fortuna Mining. Here's their website where you can check them out. Great mining company, silver and gold in Latin America, gold in West Africa, and DirtyMan SAFE. I'm telling you, I've got a dirty girl. They sell the Dirty Man, their original, and now they have a smaller one called the Dirty Girl, and they have a bigger one called the Dirty Old Man. I've been playing with the Dirty Girl. I love it. It exceeded my expectations. I'll put it that way when I got it. What I'll throw in there is if you've got somebody on your Christmas list that maybe you think likes gold and silver, you might want to check out the DirtyMan SAFE. There is a code you can use, RON10, to get 10% off if you decide to check it out. All right, guys. It's going to be a fun couple days. All right. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Thank you to everyone for being here. Okay. Thank you. You are important. Let's all go do our best. Be as nice as we can the rest of the night. I'm going to try not to think of myself so much. You do the same. All right. Peace be with you, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.